You see this $10 bill? Amazing things happened this past weekend because of this $10 bill. Obviously, it's not some magic trick, it's what Jesus did through the power of this money that I cannot wait to tell you about. I'm Sunday Joe, founder of Esther's House, a residential discipleship program offering hope to women struggling with life-controlling issues. And this past weekend, myself and our program administrator, Marcy, went to a conference in St. Louis. Friday night, we decided we wanted to go to Starbucks before we went to the session on Friday. So we get to Starbucks, we're ordering a coffee, and we're standing there waiting for it to get ready, and another woman is standing next to us, and I have my arm in a sling. I had to get surgery on my arm, and so she asked me about my arm, so I tell her what's going on. And then she proceeds to tell me that she has her own surgery that she needs to get, but she's had to postpone it because her husband is sick. He's had several heart attacks, and her 52-year-old son just had a stroke. He can't speak. His left side he can't use it, and so she's had to bring him home to take care of him, plus her husband, plus she's struggling to take care of herself. And in the midst of that, the Holy Spirit is convicting me to pray with her. And I'm thinking, I'm not praying with this lady in the middle of Starbucks. And again, the Holy Spirit is convicting me to pray with her. And I'm thinking, people are going to see I don't want to pray in the middle of Starbucks. And the Holy Spirit tells me one more time, pray with her. And so I said, would you mind if we prayed with you? She said, I would love that. So we stood in a circle, myself, Marcy, and this sweet lady, holding hands. And we prayed for her. And we prayed healing over her son and over her husband. And it was just a beautiful thing. And then we got done, and she looked at us, and she said, this was not an accident. She said, I usually go through the drive-thru, but today I had to go to the bathroom, so I had to come inside. Divine appointment, right? So we were excited. We got our coffee, and we left. Saturday night, the conference got over on Saturday afternoon, and so Saturday night we had some time to kill, and we wanted to go do some brainstorming about some ideas that we had regarding Esther's House. So we went back to Starbucks. The young lady that waited on us the night before came up to us, and she said, are you two the ladies that were praying with that lady last night? We said, yeah. And she said, I want to tell you what happened after you left. The guy that served your coffee is an atheist. And usually when people are praying, he tries to make some kind of ruckus, some kind of noise to disturb them. And she said, he came up to me after you guys left and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I waited till those ladies were done praying to serve them their coffee. And she said, you don't know how big that is. She said, I've been trying to witness to him without being religious or without, pushing religion down his throat. I wanted my actions to be louder than my words. And she said, your willingness to pray with that lady and let him see that brought him to me, and he asked me questions about Jesus. We would have never known that if we wouldn't have went back to Starbucks, right? Well, it gets better. So we're sitting there trying to process what happened, and Marcy goes back and asks the lady that served our coffee, her name is Brooke, asked her what this gentleman's name was, and so she tells us, and so Marcy comes back and she says, we need to pray for this guy. And so in the middle of Starbucks, we prayed for this guy who doesn't believe in Jesus, knowing that someday he's going to. Brooke gets off work and she comes over and sits by us and talks with us and just tells us her life story, and that she's been a Christian since she was a young girl, and she's getting ready to move to New York to pursue ministry, and just how hard it is to be a Christian in the environment she's in, and how she doesn't want to waver, and she's just so in love with Jesus. So we laid hands on her and we prayed over her for her journey, for what God is doing in her life, and for her future husband, and it was incredible. Well, then she tells us the rest of the story about the woman that we prayed with. That woman came up to her and ordered a coffee, but she was very rude and standoffish, and it kind of caught Brooke off guard. And the lady noticed that, so she looked at her and she said, I'm sorry, I'm just having a really hard day. And so Brooke, in her grace and her mercy, knowing that wasn't against her, but this lady was just having a hard day, gave her coffee for free. So she comes over and she stands by us waiting for her free coffee, and we get to pray with her. Tell me that God is not in the details. But let me tell you the best part. let's go back to this $10 bill for a second. A friend of mine who donates to Esther's House sometimes sent a card in the mail last week, the week before. But this time it wasn't a card for Esther's House. It was a card to me. And he was just encouraging me and thanking me for, what we were doing and being excited about what God was doing in our lives. And so he sent me this thank you card. And in it, he sent a $10 bill and he said, "Have a coffee on me." I saved that $10 knowing we were going to go to St. Louis and knowing we were probably going to go to Starbucks. And so we did. Because of his willingness to send $10 to us, to encourage what we're doing and what God is doing in our lives, and says, "Here's a coffee on me." We got to pray with a woman who I believe God is going to heal her son. We got to show the love of Jesus to an atheist. We got to pray for this young lady and bless her ministry. And we were blessed out of the whole thing. That's the kind of stuff like you read about in books, right? That you don't usually think happens to you, but that happened to us. There's a big lesson in this. That every decision we make will change the generations. Are we going to decide to be obedient, or are we going to decide to be disobedient? What if I would have stood in Starbucks that third time the Holy Spirit told me to pray with that sweet woman and said no, because I care too much about what people think about me, and I don't want to stand in a public place and pray with somebody? I would have been disobedient. And we would have never got to see that circle of blessings. And that man who claims he's an atheist is going to fall in love with Jesus, and I believe that. So I just want to encourage you today, no matter how uncomfortable the situation is, be obedient. Be obedient, because God longs to use you to glorify his kingdom.